Hi, I'm Tim.
And I'm Josh.
Wait, no. All right. Let's try this again.
All right. Hi, I'm Tim.
And I'm Josh. And we're gonna do a video for you.
So, I told you guys that things were going to change and how I was going to do it. I'm hoping it's going to be more interesting for you. I know I'm going to get a lot more other people involved. And tonight's when I start getting some of those other people involved. And you are coming along, so let's go.
Part of the reason why Tim and I both did this was to brush up on some video making skills and to see what we both come up with. I'm actually going to put a link to his video in here, and you can see how we do things slightly differently, but yet somewhat the same. Nonetheless, we both are very passionate about Akron and video making. So here's some of the excerpts from the conversation that we had the other night.
You're originally from Akron, correct?
The suburbs. Yeah. My neighborhood was mixed between Fair Lawn and Bath. And
Okay.
and then Copley's right there. It's kind of where they all come together.
Yep.
And then my dad worked in Akron, so I've never lived anywhere else either. So as an adult, once I went to school for a couple of years, and then when I moved back, I lived in West Akron.
Okay.
My entire adult life until I moved here to the studio, which is a tenth of a mile outside of Akron in Cuyahoga Falls.
And we could probably hit it with a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I grew up in Seville. Actually, I grew up outside of Seville, halfway between Seville and Medina, basically. So middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
The way I got kind of connected with Akron in the long run was I was house shopping. Found a house in Norton that was anything and everything that I dreamed of, and I could afford it. But my dad actually taught at Akron U for 20 some odd years. He was a professor there, and so I didn't know really Akron until probably 3-4 years ago. I've always been in this area, so northeastern Ohio to me is home.
Yeah.
Just not as much Akron or Cleveland. I would always avoid the cities because I was scared to death of them. But that was really it. So I never really was in the city much until, like I said, a couple of years ago, when I was like, oh, hey, this place is pretty cool. There's stuff here.
See, I had this weird experience of growing up, and my dad always took us down when stuff was going on, because believe it or not, that generation was trying to better the city too.
Okay.
Millennials didn't invent that idea. Did you know that? I won't put that in.
I might.
Yeah. We would go down, they used to have this thing called the Corporate Challenge, where all the corporations based downtown would do like the Olympics.
Yes.
And there was the Kids Are Number One run, which Akron General or Children sponsored.
Okay.
So there were, like, every time I went downtown, he brought us down to help like clean up like along the canal and the train tracks.
Okay.
And so I thought Akron was going on as a kid. And then when I got in high school and we had our licenses, or we'd skateboard or ride our bikes, and then we started going into the city, we realized, wow, we actually kind of live in a shithole, you know?
Yeah.
Because 80s Akron was, and then even through a lot of the 90s was
Yes.
it was rough. I mean, I don't think it was crime ridden, it was just empty. Like, you know, a
I was gonna say,
Saturday
it was-
in Akron,
There was absolutely nothing, because I mean, I even remember when I was right around the 2000s. I mean, Akron just didn't have much.
no, it was a ghost town for
The big employers had all left.
yeah.
What I think is cool about it is the fact that some of the big employers have realized that there are some great people in the area. And some of them have brought operations back, realizing that there's good people here, that there's the support for the industries here and things of that nature.
I've been working on a project with Downtown Akron Partnership, where we're going and talking to people who have moved into downtown Akron, their companies. And everyone
Okay.
we've interviewed so far, they're like, we could walk to restaurants after work if we want to do like a team building, not team building, but like all the employees go out together. There's
Yeah.
somewhere to go. And it's like, you know, in 86 that didn't exist, but now
No.
you see it, and it's like, now it's a benefit. People have been, these companies that have moved out to the suburbs, to these strip malls where you have to get in your car to do everything.
Right.
Now the idea of what a city should be is coming back around, and it's amazing. I'll sit there at one of the, like Baxter's, who has a patio downtown on Main Street, and I've been down there in the summer sitting there, and I sit there and I'm amazed at watching all the activity, because I know, I mean, this was a city on the brink. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
And and so many cities were.
Yeah.
If you look at, I mean, in the same era, Cleveland, especially, I mean, as the automakers decided to move stuff out of town, decimated. And like you said, to see the activity now and to see the people coming back and to...
They can't convert old buildings into residential fast enough in Cleveland. Like they're rented before they finish them now. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing the change. I think that's what we're on the way, you know what I mean? But we have to turn that corner. You know?
Well, and I think what's cool about Akron too is the fact that, like what you said, you can walk places. Because Cleveland, you cannot walk across town. Chicago, you cannot walk across town. Like you said, we're on the very edge. To walk downtown's a 35, 40-minute walk.
Yeah.
It's walkable. And we are just outside of town even, and we can walk there. So it's got the big city stuff, but it's got I don't want to say small town feel. That doesn't sound right. But it's a warmer feel.
But it is true because people know each other. Like, you know people in Akron. You know what I mean? Like, people, it doesn't have to be super cliquey, or you don't have to find like such a specific niche.
Yeah.
People kind of hang out together and get to know each other from different, I don't know. It does have a small town feel in a way. Anyone who wants to help out in Akron, sooner or later you meet them. People are more surprised when they introduce you and you don't know somebody. Like, oh, you don't know them? You know?
It is kind of interesting too, because we met through Snow Angel stuff. And when I look at other people that I know and have met in Akron, around Akron, through Akron, I talk to some other people, and you can say, oh, well, I used to do this. And they're like, oh, well, I know so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so.
Yeah.
You don't need the Facebook to realize that you've got 10 connections with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, places like the Mustard Seed in Highland Square, you walk in there and you may not have been in there for quite some time, but it's like Norm and Cheers. We're like,
Yeah. I had perfect example today. So I have a bike group that rides every Wednesday, and a guy who started coming because he knows the guy who owns the bike shop we meet at. We started talking, we get to know each other, and then it turns out we find out through somehow that our dads golf together. So we're like, okay, they have that connection. My brother calls me up today, and he says, how do you know Mike? You're a bike friend. Or he says, how do you know Mike? I'm like, oh, he's a bike friend. We ride bikes together. And he was like, oh, because I need an assistant coach for one of the Wobble teams, which is West Akron Baseball League. His name was on the list. I call him up. Turns out he knows you. He knows Dad. You know, like, so it's like, you know, 3 completely different, you know, routes.
So as we talk about this, one of the things that it makes me realize that Akron is really partially a great town because you can't get away with doing anything wrong because everyone knows everyone else somehow. It's an awesome city that somehow still, that if I say something to a complete stranger, somehow within a week it is back to my mother. And someone is going to tell my mother that I said something bad.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I need to carry a notebook too for the people who are like, to introduce me and they're like, oh yeah, I know your dad. And then I want to tell my dad that I met him before he runs into him. And then that person says like, oh, by the way, I met your son. They're like, where? And I want to.
And it feels like everyone's Uncle Leo in Seinfeld. To me, I've discovered it in recent years. And I think I've discovered it at the perfect time too. As everything's starting to grow and explode and just move, there's this big push to move everything forward. And I feel really lucky that I kind of discovered it at the beginning of that push to get in on that wave. To me, it's really cool. You've been here the whole time riding the up and the down, which is interesting to see too.
That's what I kind of feel like it's been this slow progression that's kind of, you know, because I was, you know, too young for the heyday, you know what I mean? I've never smelled a rubber factory, you know. They used to say, you know, you'd be coming up 77 and you'd smell Akron on the way before you got here. You know? But, you know, that was gone, you know. It was at the bottom, you know, when you know, I started to become aware of it.
When we still, I mean, to this day, you can still go into an antique shop on the other side of the planet and still find a Goodyear rubber tire ashtray. And I mean, you know, they all came from Akron. That's just how they were. But anyone that smoked in the 60s and 70s had a rubber tire around an ashtray. And that's how it was. But then went down. I'm glad it's on the way back.
Even at the tail end of winter, this area has a beauty to it, and as photographers and videographers, we like to capture that.
This reminds me of the first time I set up all my stuff in my one apartment when I'm like, I'm going to make a YouTube channel about photography. And I get all my stuff out and I'm sitting there and I have this beautiful scene and I turn the camera on and I'm like, I'm going to be terrible at this. I'm like, I have no idea. I had been planning it for weeks and then I sat down and nothing would come out of my mouth.
So, okay, so well, let's start with that then.
All right.
What got you into the photo and the video? How'd that begin for you?
I got into video just because when I upgraded to my Canon 7D, it could do video. And so basically it was the first SLR I ever had that was capable of it. And then I'm like, I kind of want to figure this out. And so I'd be out and about and I would flip it on and it would just be kind of be cool because SLR video is so different than the camcorders I had grown up with or your cell phone. I mean, to actually depth of field and all that stuff that you could do with like really nice lenses. So I started to get into it. Then I started to watch more and more YouTube videos. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. I'm better than that guy. Which turned out I turned out to be wrong.
It was interesting. It started for me with like a jet ski video that I saw online when I had jet skis. So I had taken my parents' old giant VHS camcorder. I mean, you stuck the whole tape in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I took that thing. And there were some videos that I made that we cut up a boat and I found some editing software and I'm like, oh, okay, well I can put this to music. And so then I enjoyed the editing more than the photo part of it. So for me, it was this, I just needed material to edit. I didn't realize at that point in time that garbage in equals garbage out. When I had the motorcycles, I actually had a mini DV camcorder that had a lipstick camera. And I would throw the camcorder in my backpack and I had the little camera mounted to the side of my helmet. And I would ride with that with my friends and I'd be like, yeah, I'll be at the back, go ahead. So I'd end up going through like 6 tapes and 10 hours of editing to get 45 seconds of something worth putting together.
Yeah.
So got out of it. I still have some 11-year-old YouTube videos that I've got one of my old pickup truck running through my buddy's farm field that was fun to put together and you can tell it was done with a lipstick camera. And then recently I got back into it with work, advertising the trucks. Do you still love the photography more, the video more, or what's a break from what?
I still like photography more. It's just, it was like I guess it became a new avenue to explore and be creative in a different way. Where it's like on my own. So before I became fully a professional photographer, I figured out how to learn how to do video. And a girlfriend at the time, we started making a beer review show to put up on YouTube. Okay. But the concept for me was just the motivation to do it. You know what I mean? Almost like you said you were looking for something to edit. I was looking for a way to motivate myself to create stuff so I could learn how to create stuff better. Okay. So that I could figure out, it's how I learned how to do sound, how I learned how to light better. Because you watch through this, I think we made like 20 episodes. The first one is awful sound, awful footage, awful editing. And then by the last one, it's starting to come together. And then some of my photography clients started asking me if I could do video. And so the fact that I had taught myself how to do it, it's the same thing with photography when I kept the daily blog. That motivated me to always learn how to be better at things. So for me, it was like kind of like that. It was trying something new, and then when the day came when I got asked to do it, I was able to do it.
If you go back, I'm assuming in both of our YouTube channels, you will be able to find some absolute garbage, and that is to me some of it's some of the coolest stuff. But now I'm actually able to figure out how to execute some of the shots that I want, and okay, here's this weird angle. I mean, one of the videos that I've done that's gotten the most views was for work, but it was to me it was this moment of just, wow, I need to get this shot. And I've done it once or twice since then, but nothing has ever hit the way that first one did, because it was that creative shot that really got me. And I still have some of those shots, and it's just now I'm able to execute them better and make them watchable instead of 4 colors and 8 different ISO changes and all the other stuff.
And that's how I've had Flickr for my photography since probably 2006, 2007, and I don't go back and delete the early stuff, even though I'm at the time I thought it was amazing, and I was learning how to light and learning how to shoot portraits and product shots, and some of it's what I would consider pretty poor now. But when I first, but I like seeing
Not my best work.
Yeah, but I'm not embarrassed of the progression, you know what I mean? Because it shows how far I've come, and that also the fact that constantly improving. I like looking at something from 2 years ago and being like, I can do that better now. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I don't feel like, same with YouTube. It's like, I've had people say like, why don't you go back and delete this or that, or, and it's like, no, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? That's who I was at that time. I mean,
it's legacy.
Yeah. See, the videos I do for me, like, are just basically, it's a learning exercise.
Yeah.
Because I don't get a lot of views on YouTube, but like with the stuff I just do for like, if I'm traveling or if I'm hanging out with friends or if I'm riding my bikes, like I like to cut them as artfully as I can. I put as much time into them as I do anything else. But some of the professional videos I've done that don't show up on my channel, like that have been posted by the Knight Foundation to Facebook or something, I'm watching the views, and it's like, that's my work, but it's also kind of my work uncredited, But I got paid to do it, and doing what I did because I love to do it is what made it possible that that video could exist on the level it did for the professional world.
There's a lot of purposes that we had in doing this video, and one of which was to learn some things from it, and the other of which was to learn how we work together. And when you see clips like this, you realize it was obviously a success.
We're talking to each other, but are they supposed to...
Yeah.
But does it look creepy when you're talking to me and I'm...
Yeah.
These are the questions that maybe...
That's why we're doing this, so we can figure out
That's
how creepy we really are.
Are we gonna end up on a list for this video? People, they're gonna be asking questions.
My old roommate, when I started doing the beer review show, he told me, he was like, I love watching your beer review show. It's so awkward. I'm like, that was a compliment, but it also kind of wasn't, but
What's
but
funny
that was
about
like our dynamic on it, you know what I mean? It was
And
like
that's-
this, like we would taste it and be like, I don't know what to say.
In all this, I really want to thank you for watching if you've made it this far. For me, and I'm pretty sure Tim, this was a tremendous learning experience, and I've actually really enjoyed it. So do me a favor, hit the like button if you're willing. If you've got a question about Akron or video making or anything like that, by all means, please put that in the comments below. As always, make sure that you're subscribed, and I will see you soon. I've got something coming up this coming week. I'm actually shooting a video for a band, so stick around to see how that goes.